Hello again. My name is Dharyll from Batangas State University. So for today's video, we're going to tackle in the NetAcad chapter 11, build a small network. So without further ado, let's get started. So up to this point in this course, we have considered the services that the data network can provide to the human network, examined and features of each layer of iOS model and operation of TCP/IP protocols, and lock on detail at Ethernet Universal LAN technology. The next step is to learn how to assemble these elements together in the functioning network that can be maintained. So basically in chapter 11, we're is going to tackle the types of attack and the viruses, and then the commands, and which we learned from the previous chapters, which basically chapter 11 talks about the knowledge or the learnings that we gained from the all of the previous chapter in the NetAcad. So to try and to test that knowledge, we're going to answer some activities here in chapter 11. So here in our first activity, which it has two parts, part 1 and part 2. So of course, we're going to first answer the first part of the activity, which is security threat and vulnerabilities. So let's first read the instruction and read the security threats and vulnerability scenarios. Drag each sentence to its corresponding type of security threat. So here, these are the given scenarios, and this is the types of security threat. So first, I'm going to discuss to you what is information theft, identify theft, data loss, manipulation, or disruption of service. So first, the information theft. I will just give you the general idea of what does information theft. So information theft basically is when you steal information from other person. For example, you're going to steal their credentials, and that's it. So next is the identify theft. So I identity rather. So identity theft is when the attacker copy or get your personal informations and then use it in their own purposes. So that is identify theft. Next is data loss or manipulation. So the attackers may get data, may delete data on your computer, may alter some details. So that's how the attackers does it. So next is disruption of service. So here in this disruption of service, the attacker will disrupt your access to the different kind of services. So when the attacker they disrupt the connection, so you will not gain access to that kind of service. So that's so let's go start and answering this activity. So in our first scenario, sending a virus to reformat a hard drive. So this will fall under the data loss or manipulation. Next is altering data records. So altering data records will also fall here in data loss manipulations, since there's a altering happen. Next is preventing legal users from accessing data services. So just like I said a while ago, preventing or disrupting connection to access that service will fall under the disruption of service. Next is stealing scientific research reports. So here, when you steal something from a person which is not yours, it will automatically fall in information theft. Next is stealing a company's user database. So again, it's you steal information or data that is not yours, so it will fall under information theft. Next is overloading a network to keep users out. So here it will fall disruption of service, since you overload a network to keep the users out from preventing from gaining access to that specific network. So making illegal online purchase. So this is identity theft and impersonating someone to obtain credit. So you're going to copy the personal information of others to obtain credit. So that is identity theft. So let's go check if we got the right answers. So okay, so we managed to answer all it correctly in the part 1. So let's proceed to part 2. So here, part 2, security threat and vulnerabilities. So what we're going to do here is to read security management practices, and then we're going to drag each management practices to the appropriate security management type. So this is the security management practices. So we're just going to identify if it is a hardware, environmental, electrical, or maintenance management type. So let's get started answering. So label critical cables and components. So I think it will fall fall under maintenance, and then control temperature and humidity. So I think it is a environmental management type, security management. Then control access to console port. So it will control maintenance also. And then use security cameras. It should be in hardware. Then create a positive airflow. So uh, it will fall under security management type or environmental. And install redundant power supply should be electrical. Install up systems should be also in the electrical, and lock up devices prevent unauthorized access should be on hardware. So I hope I managed to identify which the appropriate security management type or they belong. So to know it, let's go check. So okay, we managed to answer all of the correct answer here in the first activity. So let's proceed to the next activity, which is activity types of attacks. So here, determine the types of security attack described. Drag each security attack type to its scenario. So we're just going to identify what kind of security attack described based from the scenario. So let's first read the first scenario. A computer is used as a printer server for ACME Incorporation. The IT staff failed to apply security updates to the computer for over 60 days. Now the print server is operating slowly and send a high amount of malicious packet to its NIC. Since the print server is operating slowly, so it should be worm. And it's sending a high amount of malicious packet to its it should be worm. And next is next scenario. Sharon, an IT intern at ACMC, noticed some strange packets while revising the security logs generated by the firewall. A handful of IP addresses on the internet were sending in malformed packets to the different IP address and several different random ports inside the INC. So with this scenario, it should be reconnaissance, I think. So let's check if we manage to identify the attack type on each scenario. So we managed to answer it correctly. So next scenarios would be Jeremiah was browsing the internet from his personal computer when a random website offered a free program to clean his system. After downloading and running the executable, the operating system crashed. Crucial operating system related file has been corrupted and Jeremiah's computer requires a full disk format and operating system to reinstallation. So since his Jeremiah's operating system was crashed and and all of his file is corrupted, uh, I think his desktop computer is attacked by a virus. So next is Ariana found a flash drive laying on the pavement of the small parking lot. She asked around but couldn't find the owner. She decided to keep it and plug it to her laptop, only to find the photo folder. Feeling curious, Ariana opened a few photos before formatting the flash drive for her own use. Afterwards, Ariana noticed that her laptop camera was activate, active. So since you inserted the device which is not yours and it managed to monitor you or to hack your camera on your laptop or your PC, it should be Trojan horse. So we managed to identify. So let's proceed. Uh, Angela, an IT staff member of ACME, noticed that communication with the company's web server is slow. After investigating, she determined that the cause of the slow response is due to a computer on the internet sending very large number of malformed web requests to ACME's web server. So I think attack type should be denial of service, since there is a slow response to the computer and it is very slow in internet sending very large number of malformed web requests. It should, uh, it should be a denial of service. So next is George needed to share a video with a coworker because of the large size of the video file. He decided to run a simple FTP file or the file transfer server on his workstation to serve the video file to his coworker. To make things easier, George created an account with the simple password file and provided to his coworker on Friday. Without the proper security measure or a strong password, the IT staff wasn't surprised to learn on Monday that George's workstation had been compromised and was trying to upload work-related documents to the internet. So here, since George did not put a strong password on his workstation, so the attack should be access, since the attacker easily get access to the workstation of George since he did not manage to enter a strong password. So let's check. So okay, so we identified the attack type and each every scenarios. So we're done here in our second activity. So let's proceed to the next activity. So in this activity entitled show commands, read the show command scenarios, drag each show command to the field next to the appropriate scenario. So here are the list of commands which we've studied or we have learned from the previous chapter, and this is the scenario in which we're going to identify which command is appropriate in addressing that problem or scenario. So let's get started answering this. So you suspect there is a problem with the current switch configuration. You want to see that you want to see the CPU configuration so that you can compare it to what is currently running. So the command that should be used here should be is show startup config. When you are on a call with a Cisco technical assistant personnel, they ask you for the switch iOS name, RAM, NVRAM, and flash available. They also ask for the hexadecimal boot location. So the command that will provide you that detail should be show version. Next is you're running the ERGRP routing protocol and need to know the updates intervals and what active interfaces and networks are being advertised by your router. So the command that should be used here should be, I think it's IP root. Yes, it should be IP root. Then next, you cannot get to the internet. You need to find out if your router has a path to the internet and which protocol are being used to provide paths. So since you need to find out if your router has a path to the internet, you should type show IP protocols. Then next, your documentation really needs to be updated, listing the IP addresses on your routers in relation to their MAC addresses would help finish the task for recording purposes. So the command should be used here should be show ARP or ARP or whatever you call it. So next scenario, switch is the closest intermediate devices to you. It has 24 ports. You want to see a simple list of ports being used, their status, and VLAN IP address of switch. So if you want to show that details, you just need to type show IP int brief. So I think I managed to answer all of it. So let's check. So okay. So let's proceed to the our third or our fourth activity rather, which is troubleshooting using terminal monitor and debug. So here we're going to issue the command to allow log messages to be sent to your remote session. So here, while iOS log messages are sent to the console by default, these same log messages are not sent to the virtual lines by default. Because debug messages are log messages, this behavior prevents any debug related messages from being displayed on VTY lines. To display the log messages on the terminal, we're just going to type terminal monitor. So now we're going to issue the following troubleshooting commands. First, we're going to issue the debug commands that will monitor the status of ICMP messages on R1. So in order to do that, we're going to debug IP ICMP. So the next thing we need to do is ping a device with an IP address of 10.0.0.10. So we're just going to type a ping command and then the IP address that we want to ping. So that's it. So The ping command is being used if you want to test the connectivity between two devices. So next is to turn off all debugging. So in order to do that, we're just going to type the command undebug all. So all possible debugging has been turned off. So you have successfully used the terminal monitor and debug commands to troubleshoot. So that's how you troubleshoot using terminal monitor and debug. So let's proceed to next. Here in our last activity, we're just going to order the troubleshooting steps. So drag each steps to field next to its appropriate description. So we're just going to identify, we're just going to, where's the step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4. So first, let's find the step 1 in this description. Establish a theory, no. Establish a plan, no. First of all, we need to identify first the problem. Step 2, should we should verify, no. Test the theory, no. Should be establish a theory first, and then we're going to test that. After you establish a theory of probable causes, we're going to test the theory to determine the cause. And then after you test the theory to determine the cause, you need to establish a plan of action to resolve the problem and implement a solution. After you establish a plan of action, uh, you need to verify full system functionality and implement preventive measures. And the last thing you need to do is document findings, actions, and outcomes. So let's review if we arrange it correctly. Step 2, step 3, step 1, step 1, step 2. So okay, we managed to arrange it step by step. So that's how you order the troubleshooting step. So first, you're going to identify the problem, then establish a theory of probable causes, and then when you establish that theory, next thing is to test that theory if you to determine the cause, and then establish a plan of action to resolve the problem and implement the solution, and verify full system functionality and implement preventive measures, and lastly, document findings, action, and outcomes. So that's it for today's video in chapter 11. So I hope you learned something and you find this video helpful. So if you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. And thank you for watching. Bye bye.